Good morning, class 10. Today we will do the first chapter of civics, which is a very important chapter from examination point of view. Many questions come from this chapter. The chapter is power sharing, one word questions, multiple choice questions, short questions and long questions. In every section you will find various questions which have been coming in different years from this chapter. So every minutest detail of this chapter is very important for you to remember. Now let us start from page number 2, where it is written Belgium and Sri Lanka. Since the chapter has been taught in detail earlier, so today what I am going to do is, on this page I will tell you some very important lines, children, which are often asked in multiple choice questions and in 1 mark questions. That means the answer can be in one word or in one line or a multiple choice question. Okay, so now as I keep telling you, keep underlining, and what you will underline, learn that by heart, because it is very important for your preparation for the board exams. Because now whatever you are preparing, everything is for the board exam. Your target is the board exam. Obviously in the class tests or in the school examination you have to score very well, because it will help you to prepare things in detail, but ultimate aim is the board examination. So whatever lines I am telling you, mark them and learn them by heart. These are specially for your 1 mark questions. They can be in the form of MCQ or one word answers or one line answers. See, in the first paragraph, children, it is given the ethnic composition of this small country is very complex. Which country we are talking about? We are talking about Belgium. Of the country's total population, 59% lives in the Flemish region. Flemish region means the Dutch speaking region. Write down. Note this detail in your book only. Flemish region means the Dutch speaking region. 59% of the population lives in the Flemish region and speaks Dutch language. All this you have to learn by heart. What is the percentage of the population in the Flemish region, and they speak what language? They speak Dutch language. Another 40% of the people live in Wallonia region. Underline and learn, and speak French. Last year there was a question, children, that how much population lives in the Flemish region and how much population lives in the Dutch region. So you should know this. 59% of the population lives in the Flemish region and 40% of the population lives in the Wallonia region, and they speak French. This is another important thing. Sometimes a question is asked like this, that in the Flemish region, which language do the people speak and which language is spoken in the Wallonia region. So you should know that in the Flemish region people speak Dutch, and in Wallonia region they speak French. Then remaining 1% of the Belgians speak German. This also is important. Remaining 1% speak German. In the capital city Brussels, 80% of the people speak French and 20% are Dutch speaking. Underline. So all these percentages and in which region which language is spoken, this you have to learn by heart. Then come to the next column. What I am leaving, it does not mean that you have to leave. You will just give it a reading. You should know. But this what I have told you just now, this you will learn by heart. Now in the next column, second paragraph. Start marking from here. Sri Lanka has a diverse population. See, it is among the last 6-7 lines. Sri Lanka has a diverse population. Underline from here and start learning everything from here. The major social groups are the Sinhala speakers. Sinhala is the language spoken in Sri Lanka. First of all, you should know this and you should remember this. Learn it by heart. Sinhala is the language spoken in Sri Lanka. So, the major social groups are Sinhala speakers, 74%. Learn all this by heart. Then the Tamil speakers, 18%. Learn, underline and learn. Among Tamils, there are two subgroups. Tamil natives of the country called the Sri Lankan Tamils, they are 13%, and the rest whose forefathers came from India as plantation workers during the colonial period are called Indian Tamils. Till here, you might have to underline and you have to learn by heart. Such questions always are asked generally in the very short answer category. Those are of multiple choice question type, or they can be one word type. Now come to the next paragraph. In the next column, the last 5-6 lines. In Sri Lanka, the Sinhala community enjoyed an even bigger majority and could impose its will on the entire country. This you should remember. Now come to the next heading, majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. I am reading some important lines in the first paragraph. The leaders of the Sinhala community sought to secure dominance over government by virtue of their majority. Sinhala speakers were majority, so they wanted to secure dominance over the government. They wanted to be a dominating section of the community in the government because they were majority. Then come to the next paragraph and underline. In 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the official language, thus disregarding Tamil. The governments followed preferential policies that favored Sinhala applicants for university position and government jobs. So, those people who were Sinhala speaking communities, they were preferred in university admissions, etc. Come to the next para. All these government measures gradually increased the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. All these government measures, that means giving government jobs to those who were Sinhala speakers and giving preferences in admissions to those people who belong to the Sinhala community, all these government measures gradually increased the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. These Sri Lankan Tamils, they were 13% of the population. We have read just now in the previous section. So they were feeling alienated. They felt that they were now like a secluded section in the society because the Sinhala speaking community was given all the preferences and privileges. They felt that the constitution and the government policies denied them equal political rights, discriminated against them in getting jobs and other opportunities, and ignored their interests. Who was thinking all this? The Sri Lankan Tamils. They felt that they are being alienated, they are not given preferences in government jobs, they are discriminated, and they are not given equal opportunities. Their interests were ignored. As a result, the relations between the Sinhala and the Tamil communities strained over time. So if you are asked a question that what were the reasons for the relations between the Sinhala and the Tamil community being strained, so you will write all these reasons. That the Sinhala community got preference in the government policies. The Sri Lankan Tamils were denied of equal political rights. They were discriminated against them getting in jobs, government jobs. Then other opportunities were not given to them. Their interests were ignored. That is why the relations between the Sinhala and the Tamil communities strained over time. Now come to the next para. The Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil as the official language, for regional autonomy, that means freedom, and equality of opportunity in securing education and jobs. But their demand for more autonomy to provinces populated by the Tamils was repeatedly denied. By 1980s, several political organizations were formed demanding an independent Tamil Elam in northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka. You don't have to learn this, but just read it carefully. Which lines you will read carefully? The first 5-6 lines in this paragraph. That what did the Sri Lankan Tamils do in order to secure their position? They started struggles for recognition of Tamil as the official language, for regional autonomy and equality of opportunity in securing education and jobs, but their demands were denied. Only this much you have to remember in this para. Come to the next column, first 3 lines. The distrust between the two communities turned into widespread conflict and soon turned into a civil war. The distrust between two communities. Which communities? The Sinhala community and the Sri Lankan Tamils. There was a growing distrust between these two communities, and it turned into a widespread conflict and resulted into a civil war. Actually, you don't have to learn this, but just read it carefully. Now come to the next part, accommodation in Belgium. I am starting from this last line of the first paragraph. Here are some elements of the Belgium model. This you have to learn, children. What were the main features of the Belgium model? This you have to learn. I am reading the important lines. If you have not underlined till now, you must underline and learn. Constitution prescribes that the number of the Dutch and French speaking ministers shall be equal in the central government. Thus, come to the last line of the same para. Thus, no single community can make decisions unilaterally. This was the first feature of the Belgium model of government. Second, many powers of the central government have been given to state governments of the two regions of the country. The state governments are not subordinate to the central government. This was the second. Third, Brussels has a separate government in which both communities have equal representation. The French-speaking people accepted equal representation in Brussels because the Dutch-speaking community has accepted equal representation in the central government. Next point. It is on the next page. Apart from the central and the state government, there is third kind of government called the community government. This is, children, very important, because sometimes a separate question is asked. What do you understand by community government? I am reading one question which has come in CBSE 2015. The question is, the community government in Belgium is a good example of which form of power sharing? Look at the question. The community government in Belgium is a good example of which form of power sharing? The answer is social group sharing. Social group sharing. Okay, so such type of questions are often asked in the exam. So every detail, every line has to be remembered, children. Now I am reading this. Apart from the central and the state governments, there is a third kind of government. This is the community government, is elected by the people belonging to one language community. Underline this, because this is telling you what do you mean by community government. What do you mean by community government? This community government is elected by people. Community government is elected by people belonging to one language community. The Dutch, French and German speaking, no matter where they live. Till here you have to learn. If you are asked what do you mean by community government, It is a government which is elected by the people belonging to one language community, the Dutch, the French and the German speaking, no matter where they live. Now, next line is also important. This government has the power regarding cultural, educational and language related issues. This also you should remember. Now come to the paragraph given below. I am reading the last 4 lines of the first column. In Belgium, the leaders have realized that the unity of the country is possible only by respecting the feelings and interests of different communities and regions. Such realization resulted in mutually acceptable arrangements for power sharing. Sri Lanka shows us a contrasting example. It shows us that if a majority community wants to force its dominance over others and refuses to share power, it can undermine the unity of the country. These 2 things you should learn. This is telling you a difference between the kind of power sharing or the kind of thinking they have regarding power sharing in Belgium and in Sri Lanka. Okay, so I am reading quickly once again. In Belgium, the leaders have realized that the unity of the country is possible only by respecting the feelings and interests of different communities and regions. That means they want to take all regions and communities together and then move on. Such a realization resulted in mutually acceptable arrangements for power sharing. Obviously, when all communities are taken together, then there is mutual understanding and cooperation in power sharing. Sri Lanka shows us a contrasting example, just the opposite. It shows us that if a majority community wants to force its dominance over others and refuses to share power, it can undermine the unity of the country. That means they feel that if the majority community wants to force its dominance over others, then it can result in lessening the unity of the country. Why power sharing is desirable? Very, very important. Very, very important. I am reading from the 3rd line. Firstly, power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict among social groups. You should write here number 1 in bold so that you don't have to search when you prepare. First point, power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between social groups. When power is shared, mutually shared, then obviously there is less possibility of conflict among different social groups. Power sharing is a good way to ensure the stability of political order. This line I have read, but you don't have to learn it actually. Then come to the next column. Tyranny of the majority is not just oppressive for the minority, it brings ruin to the majority as well. Okay, you don't have to learn this. There is a second deeper reason why power sharing is good for democracies. I am reading now. Second reason why power sharing is good for democracies. Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. Children, very often you will find that this question comes in short answers or in long questions. Power sharing is the spirit of democracy. Explain. Or power sharing is the spirit of democracy. Discuss. So this part you have to prepare very well. Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. A democratic rule involves sharing power with those affected by its exercise. That means all those people upon whom power is shared. Everybody's participation is required in power sharing. It is not that only a handful of people in the country, in a democratic country, can enjoy all the powers. power should be shared and distributed. A democratic rule involves sharing power with those affected by its exercise. Indirectly, what they are trying to say, affected by the exercise. Who is being affected by the exercise of power sharing? We the people. So the involvement of the people is very necessary in power sharing. And who have to live with its effects? Again, who has to bear the effects of power sharing? The people. People have the right to be consulted. See, it is written also. People have the right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. So, this is a very important aspect of power sharing, children. And that is why power sharing is called the spirit of democracy. Why it is called the spirit of democracy? There is one more reason you should understand always and remember. See, what is a democracy? Democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So, when the leaders in the government, when the leaders who have to rule the country, they have been chosen by the people, they have been chosen for the people, and they have been chosen from among the people, then it is but obvious that when power sharing comes into consideration, we cannot ignore people, because it is the people who have made the government. So how can the government keep all powers in their control? It will be monarchy, it will be dictatorship, it will not remain a democracy if they do so. So in a democracy, it is true to say that power sharing is the spirit of democracy, because in a democratic rule, I am telling you the answer. If such a question comes, how you have to write. Power sharing is the spirit of democracy. It is true because in a democratic rule involves sharing power with those affected by its exercise and who have to live with its effects. People have the right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. A legitimate government is one where citizens, through participation, acquire a stake in the system. Stake means share. Another very important question comes in the board exam. What do you mean by legitimate government? Explain. So you have to write all this. This is very short. We will give you answers on legitimate government and spirit of this power sharing is the spirit of democracy. We will give you short answer also and long answers also, so that you know exactly what you have to write. Okay, but at least underline all this and learn this by heart. So a legitimate government is one where citizens, through participation, acquire a stake in the system. That means that the people are participants in the system. They take part in the governance of the country directly and indirectly, and that is why it is called as a legitimate government. Next paragraph. Let us call the first set of reasons prudential and the second moral. Another very important. Here a question comes, children. What is the difference between prudential and moral reasons for power sharing? What is the difference between prudential and moral reasons for power sharing? This is a very important and a common question in the board exam. So listen to the answer. If this question comes, you will first put the heading prudential reason. Then you will write that power sharing in democracy reduces the possibility of conflicts between different social groups. Power sharing in a democracy reduces the possibility of conflict between different social groups. Why? Because different social groups are taken into consideration, their participation is equal, their involvement is equal. Then moral reason. In a democracy, citizens have the right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. This is the moral reason. The citizens have to be consulted on how they are to be governed. So, the first one is prudential reason and second one is moral reason. This also, I will give you the question and the answer so that you will write in your copies. but at least learn this much, whatever I have made you underline just now. Now on the next page, children, you don't have to learn anything. Come to the next, forms of power sharing. In forms of power sharing, children, in the first paragraph, see the line where it is written, one basic principle of democracy is that people are the source of all political power. Keep on underlining all this and you should learn this. One basic principle of democracy is that people are the source of all political power. As I have just now told you, that in a country like India or in any democratic country, the people have a very important role to play. That is why it is said that the people are the source. They are the source of political power. Then the important thing is, in a good democratic government, due respect is given to diverse groups and views that exist in a society. There is no preference that the Hindus are given preferences or the Muslims are given or the Parsis are given. No. Different social groups, in India, in a country like India, so many diverse groups live in the country. So due respect is given to different groups, diverse groups in the country and views that exist in the society. Everybody's viewpoint is equally respected. Everyone has a voice in shaping of public policies. Very important. Everyone, whether they belong to any caste, religion, community, every social group has a freedom to raise their voice and speak out in shaping of the public policies. That means they have a direct and indirect role in the framing of the policies which the government finalizes. Therefore, it follows that in a democracy, political power should be distributed among as many citizens as possible. Then come to the first red block which is made on the left side. Power is shared among different organs of the government. These are different forms of power sharing. How power is shared in a democratic government. First point is, power is shared among different organs of the government. Which are the organs of the government? The legislature, the executive and the judiciary. You have studied in your classes 6th, 7th and 8th also that power is distributed among the legislature, executive and the judiciary. All three exercise their powers independently and they do not interfere in each other's functioning. This is very important. I am quickly reading everything, children, here is very important. Everything. See the last line I can see. This arrangement is called a system of checks and balances. It is a very, very important question in your board exam. The question comes like this: what is the meaning of a system of checks and balances? So you will have to write everything. I am just looking if I get such a question just now, I will read out just now. Let me just check. Give me 2 minutes time. No, just now in this book which I have in front of me, it is not there. But surely I will give you a question later on checks and balances. Don't worry, I will be giving you. I am reading one question which has come in 1 mark question. The system of checks and balances comes under which form of power sharing? So it comes under horizontal distribution of power sharing. Such type of questions also come, children. So don't think that you can skip anything or you can do selective studies. Please don't even dream of doing any selective study in class 10. Every line should be known to you. Every line you have to remember. And how can you remember? You have to read the chapter many times. You can't learn the whole chapter. Read the chapters again and again. I am reading quickly what is written under this. Power is shared among different organs of the government such as legislature, executive and judiciary. Let us call this horizontal distribution of power. See, just now I have read the answer to you and this is the answer. This power sharing, the distribution between legislature, executive and judiciary, this is called horizontal distribution of power. Why? The reason is also given. Because it allows different organs of the government placed at the same level to exercise different powers. Learn everything by heart. It can come in short question also and it can come in 1 mark question also. Such a separation ensures that none of the organs can exercise unlimited power. Each organ checks the other. That is why it is called a system of checks and balances. Each line, as I am reading, you will see that every line is a part of your answer. You can't leave any line. Each line is so interrelated. This results in the balance of power among various institutions. Then you don't have to include this. Last year we studied. All this you will not write, obviously. Then you will write, similarly, although judges are appointed by the executive, they can check the functioning of the executive or laws made by the legislatures. This arrangement is called a system of checks and balances. So, see, everything is the answer. You can't leave anything. Second is, power can be shared among governments at different levels. A general government for the entire country and the government at the provincial or the regional level. Like in India, we have the central government and the state government. It is the same thing. Power is shared among different governments at different levels, the central government or the state governments. Such a general government for the entire country usually called the federal government. In India, we refer to it as the central or union government. Just now I told you. The government at the provincial or regional level by different names are called by different names. In India, we call them state governments. Just now I told you. So if you are writing in this answer the second point, then you have to explain what do you mean by this second point. That in a country like India, we have 2 types of government, the central government and the state government. This system is not followed in all countries. There are many countries where there are no provincial or state governments. You don't have to write all this. Then the important line here is, this is called federal division of power. What is federal division of power? That the whole country is divided into, the government of the whole country is divided into different levels. At the central level, it is called the central government. At the state level, it is called the state government. So this is called the federal division of power. The same principle can be extended to levels of government lower than the state government. This also you will have to include, such as the municipality and the panchayat. So we don't have only 2 tiers of government, children. If you remember, I have taught all this to you in federalism. If we don't have only, we have 3